So we wanted to turn to the Michigan Senate Democratic primary where Haley Stevens, the establishment darling, is up against Abdul El-Sayed, the left-wing insurgent. And there's a new tactic being deployed from Stevens and Stevens allied groups to make it seem like maybe, kind of, sort of, she was endorsed by Obama. Let's go ahead and take a look at one of these ads.
My husband worked at Ford for 41 years.
My father worked for General Motors for 30 years.
And when they came for our auto jobs,
Haley Stevens stood up.
She was chief of staff to President Obama's auto rescue.
And Haley Stevens, by the way, she was a critical part of my team that helped the American auto industry come roaring back.
That saved 200,000 Michigan jobs.
She helped save jobs for my own family.
If President Obama trusts her,
so do I.
Stronger Michigan is responsible for the content of this ad.
President Obama trusts her, and so do I. Stevens has millions of dollars, more than tens of millions of dollars, flooding into this race on her behalf from a variety of super PACs, including some that are backed by Aipac. This is a mailer that's going out to homes around Michigan that says similar quotes. Haley Stevens was a critical part of my team that helped the American auto industry come roaring back. President Barack Obama, Detroit Free Press opinion. Black Michiganders will help decide Michigan's U.S. Senate primary. This one is from one of the Aipac allied super PACs. And you've had Michigan voters who are taking in this content, assume that it means that she is fully endorsed by Barack Obama, which she is not. He is not endorsed in this race. Of course, he could pipe up and make that clear. He has chosen not to do that at this point. But in any case, you have some voters who are saying that, I'm going to vote for Haley Stevens based on these ads. Let's go ahead and put the first part of D2 up on the screen. This is one couple that was quoted saying that President Obama is the reason they're voting for Haley Stevens. Quote, they put a lot of money behind Haley. We don't know a whole lot about him, being Abdul El-Sayed. I asked about Aipac. The Mill said they are not anti-Israel, but what's happening in Gaza is a genocide. So these are people who ideologically align with Abdul El-Sayed. But Barack Obama's word means so much to them that they are voting with the person who is not ideologically aligned with them because they have been basically tricked into believing that Obama backs her.
Yeah, this is a classic strategy by many politicians. I've seen it with Trump as well, where Trump will endorse somebody like in 2020, and then he won't endorse them in 2024, but he'll be running their endorsement back from 2020, be like the previously Trump endorsed candidate who is in this race. So it's not like it hasn't happened before, but it is very obviously being boosted by titanic amounts of money. And that's part of the reason why we're even covering it is the amount of money in this primary is shocking, like tens of millions of dollars. Some of it appears to be AIPAC, but a lot of it seems to be more institutional interests as well. So it's like pro-corporate, all of these other influences which are in the state. The part that really stuck out to me was Gary Peters. Can we put D6 up here on the screen? He previously said, he's a sitting senator. He's the person who she is running to replace. He previously had said that he was going to sit out of the entire primary. He's like, oh, whoever wins, we'll let him win. And it appears now that El-Sayed is coming at least within striking distance, it seems to be tied in the polls here with Haley Stevens, that he has come out and explicitly said, I'm all in for Haley Stevens. And even his announcement makes it clear that this Obama thing is part of their strategy. Quote, Haley began her service to Michigan as a critical part of our team as President Obama and I fought to save 200,000 jobs, rescuing and helping the auto industry come roaring back. I'm proud to have Haley was recognized as the most effective Michigan Democrat in Congress. So they are leaning heavily back on that auto bailout from 2010 to boost her chances in her previous association with Obama, the last Democrat really to, win the state overwhelmingly, which shows part of the problems, I think, for the Democrats in terms of actually trying to turn this seat, solidly blue this time around for Slotkin. Yeah. I mean, she barely won the election.
Biden won it, but it was close.
It was very close.
Yeah,
in 2020.
Slotkin won it, but it was fairly close. Exactly. I think she might have outperformed Biden a little bit, actually.
She did, because he lost. He lost the state of Michigan. She won. But
I think he won the state of Michigan.
Did Biden? Oh, man.
While you're looking that up, there's another element of this. We didn't pull this particular screenshot, but at the same time, they're trying to suggest, like, oh, this is Obama's candidate. The UAW, United Auto Workers, have endorsed Abdul. And they're also, some of the super PACs backing Haley are also trying to suggest that she's the candidate of the auto workers, even though the actual auto workers endorsed her opponent. And the UAW actually had to issue a cease and desist to one of the super PACs that is backing them because they used the UAW's logo in election ads that were promoting a candidate not endorsed by the union. So this is the sort of tactics. And if Abdul loses, like, this ploy will have been successful. I think the other thing is it's a testament to how popular Obama remains in the party, that they feel that he is the best validator that she could possibly have, especially with black voters. I do think that his word continues to be very powerful in the party. He's still one of the most popular politicians, if not the most popular politician in the entire country. So even though I have my feelings about the disappointment of Obama, many other people do as well. Overall, broadly, among sort of normie voters, he still has a lot of popularity. This race also pits him de facto because of these quotes that Haley Stevens is pulling from the past versus Bernie Sanders, who actually did endorse Abdul, and that Abdul has been featuring in his ads. Bernie Sanders being probably the second most popular politician in the entire country. So there's an interesting dynamic there as well. Bernie has always done really well in Michigan. That was back in 2016 when he was running against Hillary. That was sort of like his miracle comeback. He wins the state of Michigan. It seemed like maybe he had a shot at getting the whole thing. But so in any case, he has only grown in popularity in the state over time.
Yeah, Trump did win Michigan, barely.
In 2020?
Oh, no, sorry, 2024. That's what I was talking about, for Slotkin, because she won.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right,
I got you. But in 2020,
no, in 2020
Biden won Michigan. Okay,
Biden,
all right. We were talking about
but it was
separate
actually very
things.
close. It was like 2% back in 2020. Whereas if you look at the 2012 and the 2008 margins, it's crazy how much Trump flipped the map overall. I do think, to the Obama point, this is fascinating. I do not understand why this man still has so much affection in the Democratic Party. To me, it's all vibes based because, empirically, he chose Hillary. She was a total disaster. He told Biden, who was still cognizant at that time, not to run, even though he might have been able, actually, to win the election whenever his brain was still not completely all mush. His legacy is the election of Donald Trump. And nobody can look back at the time period and say, well, even though we had all these nice vibes of hope and change, the fact that it was immediately, that immediately was followed by the Trump era means things were not all hunky-dory. And yet, simply because I think he's rhetorically articulate, I guess, overperformed dramatically in 2008, that all these Democrats are like, oh, I long for the Obama.
Why? I think it is. I think it's because
he was objectively a bad president.
I think it's for a couple of reasons. Obviously, I agree with your analysis, but if I have to put myself in the shoes of why people have this nostalgic yearning for him, which in some sense I do kind of feel because he represents the pre-Trump era. So it's
so then you long for an age. You don't long for Obama, right?
But I'm not trying to explain it rationally, but in terms of people's sense of things, right? Because I agree with you.
Yeah.
If the fact that Trump comes immediately after Obama is kind of an indictment of Obama, and nobody ever talks about that, but that is real. In any case, I think there's this sense of politics were simpler, they were more aspirational. There's this kind of sense of the pre-Trump era that comes along with the feeling of what Obama was as president.
Objectively.
And then you also have, like you said, very, very talented, very charming, funny, he's got all the things. And him being the historic first black president, obviously that carries a lot of weight with a lot of people, but especially with black voters. And so you put all those pieces together. And even though it drives me crazy that he barely ever pops up and does politics at all, it's like when he wants to crush a left-wing insurgency, that's when he, pipes up or does something behind the scenes, like when he made sure to line up all the ducks so that Joe Biden could get through ultimately and crush Bernie Sanders. Even though that irritates me, the fact that he has remained kind of above the fray and doesn't dive into every political issue of the day, I think also gives him a bit of a halo with the population.
I think I kind of get it because I have this problem with a lot of Republican friends. They worship Reagan. And I'm like, guys, Reagan was, sure, he was nice. He was, he spoke well. He was very charismatic, the whole jelly beans thing. But then when we look at the issues that they purport to care about, from immigration or neoconservatism or tax policy, I'm like, what about this? What about this? What about this? They're like, oh, I didn't really know any of that. I'm like, yeah, it was really bad.
Yeah.
I'm like, why do we still have to worship Ronald Reagan?
The architect of the horrors that we're living through now.
Sure.
You can go back to Reagan with almost everything.
Yeah. And so I'm like, why don't we worship Nixon? And they're like, but Nixon was bad. I'm like, well, what about that? I have to talk about Environmental Protection Act, the realism, in terms of his relationship with big government, the post-Eisenhower Republican. And a lot of them are like, oh yeah, it does seem like Nixon really aligns much more with my politics than Reagan. And yet they feel this immense, affection for Reagan, simply because he was deeply charismatic, which is, kind of the ultimate problem, I think, with a lot of our politics. But yeah, if anything, my message to a lot of these Democrats, it's like Obama's hold on the boomer mind is unbelievable. The way that they worship the ground that he walks on. When it's like, if you look at the trajectory, even having lived through it, also having seen what came after, it's like he was not good at actually fulfilling any of the things that he wanted to do. From 2008, if you actually look at the overall record, from the war, bailouts,
the biggest thing is
he lost the House majority.
And
Obamacare is a horrible product.
And that was the big signature item. When you think of Obama, you think of Obamacare, obviously. And I think at this point, everybody knows that it was not enough, the problems with it, et cetera. But it'll be an interesting test to see if this works in Michigan, and it might.